There's a debate over racial justice in two court cases involving local police departments. One case recently heard in federal court is about the promotional exam. The other is about the method used for drug testing. Our guests believe there should be changes in both areas. We'd like to welcome the Executive Director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and Economic Justice, Iván Espinoza-Madrigal, and the former president and still a board member of the Massachusetts Association of Minority Law Enforcement Officers, or MAMLEO, Larry Van Zandt. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you.
I want to start with Larry Van Zandt, promotional exams. We've been hearing for year after year that we still need to see more diversity in the ranks, but there's this civil service exam system here. So explain, especially in Boston, what does this mean?
Well, the civil service exam, first of all, is put together on a basis of, we don't know who's putting the exam together, but we have a good idea that whoever's putting it together are not people of color. And it's based on probably academians in schools, right, who are predominantly white, and figuring out that this exam should look this particular way. Now, the schools within the city themselves do not prepare their students to take these kind of exams, these civil service exams. So what happens is the average school student in a public school in a large urban area like Boston goes into that exam room and takes that exam with no idea and no previous education on how these exams look, and they end up not getting a high score. Even if they end up passing, their score is normally lower than perhaps a kid from a school in the suburbs or a private school person.
So as a result, how do things look higher up in the ranks, let's say in Boston or on the T, please?
Well, things look very terrible high up in the ranks. And because even though you may at some point pass the sergeant's exam, then you've got to climb that lieutenant's exam. Now, let me give you an idea of what happened. When I came on the job in 1979, there was a blue book. And you studied this little blue book for promotion. And then there were, the city of Boston with a consent decree in 1973. Then they fought against it, but when they had to implement that consent decree, my class is one of the first classes in 1979 to go on under that consent decree, which was about 150 people within my class, and 75 black, 75 white, pretty close to 50-50. Let's put it that way. Now you go from the blue book, now you start going into college textbooks. College textbooks for you to be able to study for these promotional exams. Never been done before. Okay, now you have a GED to get on the Boston Police Department, a GED, a general education diploma. But now you have exams not based on general education, based on books being written by academians from different colleges who study in criminal justice, some of them doctorates, whatever. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. So now you want me to look at this book with a GED, and I have not set up my skills, especially my studying skills. Who knows? Because before I came on the job, I went 4 years United States Navy, so I was out of that whole academic area of studying. And as we can look at the change today, just because the internet is there, we can see how fast the educational systems change. So when I was in the Navy those 4 years, coming out of high school, what happened with education within those 4 years? Now you want me to come out of the Navy, who hasn't prepared me to come out of the Navy and take these exams. Yes, you're giving me extra points, but you're not giving me any so I don't have any insight on how these exams are going to look. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. All right?
So, Iván Espinoza-Madrigal, we still want to be objective. We want to have quality control. So is there another way to do this?
Well, the points that Larry is alluding to are really key here. A test for a promotion that is based on rote memorization, on studying a reading list, instead of assessing a candidate's leadership, command presence, judgment, ability to interact with others, interpersonal relations. Those are skills that are not covered in the textbook, for example, that Larry is mentioning. And so as we are assessing and promoting individuals within the police department, particularly for the sergeant position, are there ways to test people on what they're actually going to need on the job? right? I keep thinking about it as if you're hiring a firefighter, do you want a firefighter who knows all of the firefighting terms and vocabulary and can pass a written standardized exam, or a firefighter who knows how to fight a fire? And those are different assessments, right? If we're talking about hiring a baseball player for the Red Sox, do you want somebody who knows baseball history or baseball vocabulary, or do you want someone who could actually, bat, catch, pitch? That's what we're talking about here. And the way the exam is configured, as Larry is explaining, it's not based on the real life experiences and skills that somebody needs to do this job on the ground.
Larry, another, I guess, dynamic here is not just individual mental competence, but chemistry. When you get a certain mix of people from different backgrounds, you worked on a gang unit. There are different levels of mixes over time. Does that make a difference?
Oh, absolutely. But also, let's go back to the United States Armed Forces during my era, where when you went in, maybe 3 years before I went in, until Admiral Zumwalt came along, you were able to go into the Navy as a black man, as a cook or steward. So you really weren't able to go into the armed forces as a person, even if you had a good education. It meant nothing. They segregated you, and you might have all went into the same fight in the same trench hole. But when you came out of that trench hole, things changed. Educationally, it changed. The diversification changed when you got back to the States, to the barracks. They have groups staying in the black barracks, white barracks. So it really, it looks to be like it's everybody is all together, and it's this big melting pot of everyone. But it's a separation, and the recruits and the volunteers that went to Vietnam during the era which I was in, they came back here and met racism as soon as they came back, even though they were over in Vietnam fighting for this country. And then they didn't get the same opportunities to get the same education as the whites got, right? So then we had to go into another era of fighting for equal education and getting to be able to get into those schools that we needed to get into. So it's never really been that melting pot. It looks like it has, and it never happened.
Iván Espinoza-Madrigal, the other issue here is the drug testing method. This involves a hair test. Talk about how likely to get false positives and what else can be done instead.
Yeah, well, there are many things that we could be doing instead. Something as simple as a urine drug screening instead of using a hair sample for drug screening. Urine tests are cheap, affordable, they're standard. Many people use them across a variety of industries, other police departments. Here in the city of Boston, we use a hair sample for drug screening. And the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights is also challenging the drug screening method, just like we're challenging the sergeant's promotion exam, because too many people who take this exam, who are African American, get false positives. They are not passing this drug screening because the test has difficulty detecting cocaine and other drugs within African American hair texture and structure.
Genetics.
Yeah.
Genetics. And that's the problem we have. However, what we really found out was that no one really done due diligence before they start taking these exams. You got to do due diligence. You got to go out there. You got to research it, because it's not like they didn't know before we start taking this exam. So it makes us think that maybe this was a way to start eliminating us. They didn't want us on the job anyway. So now we can take this exam. This exam, even by false positives, will eliminate X amount of minorities.
And it has already eliminated people who we are representing.